Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Bud Churchward, WB7FHC. Ward Silver, author of many ARRL publications, opened the 2016 MicroHAMS digital conference last March. Now that the ARRL centennial is over, Ward coins the phrase Amateur Radio Reenactment League, and he asks ham radio, now what? Let's take a look at what he has to say. Join me now as we enter Building 37 on the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington.
West, I don't think that so much as a coming to give a talk as a skin rehydration program. Good.
All right. So I wanted to introduce Ward Silver, N0AX. Ward's the lead editor of the ARRL Handbook and the ARRL Antenna Book. He's the author of all three ARRL license manuals and the QA study guides, along with writing the monthly QST called Hands-On Radio, which I had to stop reading because it gets me. Anyway, I have to stop reading. I want to go build stuff.
He makes them twitchy.
The ham radio detective history, Ray Tracy's Zone of Iniquity, in his contribution to the dramatic side of amateur radio. He serves as a contributing editor to the ARRL and consults on a wide variety of projects and programs in the ARRL contest branch. You will also find his byline on the popular Wiley for Dummies series, Ham Radio, now in its second edition, two-way radios and scanners, and circuit building do-it-yourself. As an electrical engineer, he designed microprocessor-based products and medical devices for 20 years before beginning a second career as a teacher and writer. Ward was first licensed in 1972 as WN0GQP.
And still became a CW guy with that.
That's awful.
And enjoys all the rhythm of a drunk falling down the stairs. Whatever.
He enjoys DXing contesting, elected to the CQ Contest Hall of Fame in 2015, and participating in his local Aries Emergency Communications team. He's the founder of the World Radio Sport Team Championships and the president of the GASB Foundation. This can't be all, right? But this is a short version. Right.
Condensed.
Outside of ham radio, Ward plays the mandolin, dabbles in digital photography, and enjoys camping, canoeing, kayaking, and ultimate frisbee. Please welcome Ward Silver.
Yeah.
For the outreach and nuts and bolts.
Oh yes, and the nuts and bolts column is going very well. How many nuts and bolts do we have here? A couple of nuts, 4 volts. Okay, super. Yeah, it's been interesting to interact with that group. Anyway, thanks for inviting me back. This is about my 5th or 6th MicroHAMS convention or conference or whatever it is, free for all. And I'm going to run through this talk really quick. I know we're all fully caffeinated at this point, so I can go up after the training sequence. We can jump up to 9600. It should be no problem, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, this talk has 2 audiences, and I've given it to several groups. And one audience is the changers, which I think are you, and one audience is the changees, which are the people who are watching all this come on, like an onrushing train. And for there to be this change process within amateur radio, both groups kind of have to understand each other, and they have to respect each other. So this talk is not so much a technical talk. You guys are all fairly deep in your respective technologies, and I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. So this is a talk about what's changing in amateur radio. It's not a prediction talk so much. It's a basket of observations and suggestions. And to do that, we're going to start with a little discussion about the golden age of amateur radio. And who knows what the golden age of ham radio is? It is the 5 years centered on whenever you got your license. And everything before that was primitive wasteland. Everything after that, been going to hell in a handbasket. Okay? So we all have our little golden ages, and that really sets the tone for what we expect out of ham radio. And those of you that got into it in 1959, when the solar flux was so high, you could work the moon with AM on 10 meters. Well, then you have that perspective. If you got into it, the great FM explosion, you have that set of expectations. If you got into it with packet, you have that set of expectations. And everybody that gets into ham radio, it's kind of like your first love interest, you know, it never gets any better than that, really. And so you have this vision of what ham radio really is. In May of this year will be my 50th anniversary of wandering into the Lewis and Clark Library branch and discovering May QST on the shelf. You know how the lights come up in the movie? It was kind of like that. And that was the equivalent of the internet at the time. And I would wander around in magazine stacks, and I found this magazine, and there were these guys, and they were doing these things, and the rest is history. Well, that's kind of the golden age of ham radio. So we all have to recognize that we all have these different set of expectations for what ham radio is. Okay. But we've got 100 years now of ham radio goodness in the log, so to speak. Started out back in the day of Marconi, and it's come all the way through. There's been all these wonderful technical operating advances. I wrote a book called History of QST Technology as part of a 2-volume set for the centennial. And as I went through it, I found some amazing things that hams have contributed even as far back as the teens of the first century, back there in 1915 and 16, and then in the 20s and so on and so forth. And it really continues all the way along through it. It's really quite a story. And we're developed this incredibly skilled public service component. We adapted radiograms. We built these networks. We did all these really cool things totally on our own. The American Radio Relay League was founded, in fact, to create a network. And it was one of the first wireless networks. And it's a good thing that the ARRL and amateur radio got started in New England, because you could only hear a few miles. If it had started in Kansas, it would have been dead within a week. But if it was in New England, then you had all these little boroughs and towns and stuff. And so they developed this system of getting messages from town to town, a few miles, and so forth. And then stations gradually got bigger and bigger. And they were doing transcontinental stuff before you know it. But this was something we developed completely on our own, with our own technology. Today, there are millions, literally millions of hams worldwide. Started out with a handful of wild-eyed experimenters, and now there are millions of us. So all over the world, and each little group around the world is sort of coming along at its own pace and with its own priorities. So we have the most hams, we have the most frequencies, we have the most technologies ever. And so that's really quite an accomplishment. And so I quote U.B. Blake here, the great ragtime player, about if he'd known he was going to live this long, he'd have taken better care of himself. And somebody asked U.B. one time, what do you attribute your long life to? And U.B. grew up in slums of New Orleans playing piano in barrel houses. And he said, always sit facing the door. So, good advice. So we talked about, we've got all these frequencies and hams and technology. Okay, so what's the problem here? Well, this is a very similar situation to where Intel was back in the 70s. And some of you will recognize the name Andy Grove. He was the CEO for Intel for its great world domination period from the mid-70s into the 80s and early 90s. Andy sensed that even though Intel was the world leader in memories at the time, that they were selling a ton of stuff, they were the world leader, they were making more memories than anybody else, the market was going to change. Soon, memories would be a commodity, and what was a big wave of technology now would suddenly fall at some point. He said, we've got to get out of this. And of course, the board is going, what? And the shareholders are going, what? And the sales guys are going, what? And he says, no, we're going to change into these new things. We're going to go after this thing called a microprocessor thing. And they became the world leaders in that. And if you were around in the mid-70s, you will remember the great memory crash as companies that were titans of their day were soon bankrupt, bought out, whatever. as everybody overbuilt their memory capacity, and what was a technology leading kind of thing became just another device. And so Intel got off that horse, and Andy called that the strategic point of inflection, where everything's going well, but you sense things are changing out from under you. And that's where ham radio really is today. A lot of people, a lot of technology, a lot of cool stuff going on, but I think we can all sense the changes that are coming. And primarily, it's a technology sort of thing. Okay, so this is what I call ham radio 2.0, the big pivot. Ham radio 1.0 has been going on for 100 years. Certain modalities, certain ways of doing business, certain expectations, certain technologies are involved, and now we're sort of getting to this point where the technology is changing. And you're going to see several changes as we go through this stuff today. And so now that the centennial has passed, and we've had our big party, and we've congratulated ourselves and patted ourselves on the back for 100 years of innovation and good stuff, now we have to turn around and look out the windshield. Okay, the centennial's over, now what? And we've got to start getting away from the nostalgia for the past and looking toward the future. If we don't change our emphasis on the past, then we get to what I call the American Radio Reenactment League. Okay, there's a lot of value in 1.0, but we've got to go to 2.0. And as you guys know, when you release software, and a lot of software people here, going to 2.0 doesn't mean throwing away 1.0. It means taking what 1.0 has and carrying it forward into 2.0. That's what we've got to do. And the other challenge is the demographics are not that favorable to us. You look around, there's a lot of gray hair. I have some. A lot of us are in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, and that pig and snake is moving to the right. We need to be aware of that. We need to start looking to people. I see 3 young people here. You know, look, young people, ladies and gentlemen, young people. Look at them. That's right. That's all right. We get a little creepy at times. Okay? I think if you look on Reddit, the word geezer comes up an awful lot. Usually, they're okay for a bunch of old geezers. They're kind of weird, but we're cool with that. Okay. But the demographics have to change, and I can tell you from conversations with people back at HQ, and I use my standard disclaimer. I have a brown badge, okay, and I'm a contractor with the ARO. I'm not staff. I'm not elected, and brown means loose cannon. Okay, so and it's falling off here. So what I say is not lead policy. It's not sanctioned. It's just me. Okay, so I have plausible deniability, and so do you. Anyway, the new CEO really gets this issue of demographics, and that we have to do some significant amount of outreach. And I think that leadership at the ARL is coming to this realization as well. So look for some recognition and some support of new programs through the ARL. They want to hear from you. What are you doing? What is cool? How can we help you promote it? How can we help you publicize it? How can we get the word out and distribute it? What media channels should we be on? Where should we be talking about this stuff? All this is going to happen. And as you know, the technology changes are huge. They're enormous. And that makes a lot of people nervous. And this Suzuki guy is a Zen philosopher. And it's just really tough. And what he's saying here is, this is hard. We all know that things are going to change. Those of us who have been around for a while, and I've had my license since 1972, it's tough. We want to do what we want to do. And as these changes come along, well, is there going to be a place for me? Is there going to be a place for the stuff that I like? And so we suffer. Okay, so let's move along then as all this philosophy talk. What do we see? We turn around, we look out the windshield. What, in fact, are we seeing? So the idea of what a station is changing. It used to be, you was your backyard, you put up antennas, you had receivers and transmitters and towers and what have you and all that kind of stuff. And just due to the changing way that we live today, the idea of a station itself is changing. You've got remote stations, portable stations, mobile stations, people moving around. You can use your remote station from wherever you are. You can just whip out your tablet, bing, 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 you're on from anywhere. I know two guys who were flying next to each other in an airliner, and they both took out their tablets and they opened up their stations on the ground and worked each other, even though they were sitting next to each other on a plane. This drives some people absolutely crazy, and other people it drives absolutely crazy. And I'm going to be remoting my station. The point is, the purpose of a station is changing. What your expectations are going to be changing. The people that come to the hobby now are going to have a completely different set of expectations about what they're going to be doing. They're not so invested in this, well, I've got to have this giant console down in the basement with all these wires and these things in the backyard. I may need to have access to that, but I don't have to necessarily have it myself. Okay, you got digital voice, you got digital data, it's alongside analog modes. 40 meters is crazy. Have you listened on a weekend where there's the big radio contest and a digital contest, and you've got the WinLink guys, and oh, there's single sideband, and oh, there's the Morse code contest going on at the same time. And it kind of sounds like a truck full of hogs running into a truck full of tin cans up there around, 7060. I talked to the cognitive radio guys, and they're always like, well, we have these algorithms. I said, look, just come down to 40 meters. Watch the hams do it. We've got 5 or 6 completely incompatible modes, and sometimes even hostile user groups, and they work it out. This is how we do it. We have single sideband, we have RIDI going, all this kind of stuff, and they're all piled in there together. We do cognitive radio. We've been doing the white space thing for years, for decades. Come down and see how we do it. So that's really a cool part of what 2.0 is going to be. SDR is replacing all of analog technology. As the handbook editor, I have this big challenge. I've got this big book of 1,300 pages. A lot of it is receiving and transmitting and all this stuff. It has all this legacy stuff about mixers and modulators and demodulators and detectors and all this stuff. And I've also got to explain all this stuff about SDRs. SDR receivers behave completely differently from analog receivers. So how do I, in a chapter about receivers, do I have to write 2 chapters? What about the hybrid stuff? How are we going to do this? So we're in this transition period. We've got Casey and Morgan's hand shield. Is Casey and Morgan in the audience here? There you go. Hey, I'm waiting for my hand shield, buddy. Come on. I'm waiting. This is good. So this is happening. The Rebel Tintech little thing, somebody figured out how to jam JT65 into an Arduino, and so you can get on 40 meters and work JT65 with this tiny little QRP transceiver. You've got ham mesh networks that are sprouting up everywhere, and they may be the answer to holding our microwave bands. I mean, contesting on the weekend isn't going to do it, and you're certainly not going to rag chew on 5.6 gigahertz single sideband. So how do we use these allocations? Well, the networks are a great opportunity. What if we could have contests with networks? Think about that. Some kind of distance, bit rate, error rate metric that you would immediately run out to the nearest mountaintop and be scanning around trying to find other people. We've got digital codes and protocols that are just coming out like crazy. The new version of FLDigi has over 100 different modes. There's menus and submenus and submenus. I'm mentoring a young guy who's just thinking about getting his license, and we went through that menu, and he said, what is this? And I explained a bunch of them, and then you get to this one, and I said, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Somebody invented it, they published it. If you invent a way of exchanging data, and you publish your protocol, you publish your modulation scheme, go for it. It's a totally open area of innovation. We got very low signal noise stuff. You can't even hear JT65 signals half the time. You don't even know they're there. You're doing stuff off the moon, You listen with your ear, you can't hear anything. But it's decoding. Just terrific. 27, 28, 29, 30 dB below the noise floor. JT65 is pulling this stuff out. It's handy to have these Nobel laureates writing software about it. Very handy. 1.0 is kind of a linear thing, right? And we have this model of the spectrum that is a linear thing. It goes from over here to over here, and we have all these stations that are beads on this little string. And our receivers throw away all of those beads. And the better the receiver is, the more the beads it can throw away until you just get one of those beads, one single bead. And we have this knob thing that changes from bead to bead. And that hasn't changed since the 1930s. That's the model that we have in our heads of what the spectrum is. That's the model for our user interface of how we deal with stuff, is we have the string with beads and we throw away everything except that one bead. Okay, 2.0, you've got data. You've got lots of data. We can inhale great leaping chunks of spectrum with an SDR. Bring it all in. Why? Then you can throw it away and apply the 1.0 model to that. Why not? Let's turn around, look out. Let's use that data. Let's go out and grab some of this data off the internet. There's a guy who's got a really neat little reverse beacon network app where you click on the spot and it goes to that frequency and you see everything that's been spotted within that little thing. He can take the call sign, he can go out and he can find out where that person is. He can put the picture on the top of that signal, so I would see who I'm talking to. In Mike's case, that might not be a good idea, but
especially if it's female.
There you go. You know, yeah. So your anonymity. Well, you get avatars. You know, if you ever wanted to be a 16-year-old Ukrainian ballet dancer, here's your chance. Okay, you know, whatever. You know, it's like Facebook. So we've got all this data, this metadata, all these things. We've got enormous amounts of processing power. This is all going to change. So it's no more going to be this knob with numbers and you know, a box. It's going to change. This is a cool thing. We got weird solar behavior. We know more about the sun than we ever did before. We got real-time ionospheric data. We've got groups that are research groups that are now pulling in this automated receiver data and building an enormous data set. You know, there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun here in the United States, August of 2017. Starts in Portland, Oregon, and goes all the way across the country to Charlotte, South Carolina. It's going to be the most watched total solar eclipse in history. And we are putting together a solar eclipse QSO party to generate signals that can be decoded and captured by this reverse beacon network and other beacons. You've got WhisperNet, PSK Reporter, a bunch of other stuff. And that data set is going to be pulled into the Virginia Tech cloud of computers, and it's going to be available for ionospheric researchers to play with. And hams are going to transmit everything from 160 meters all the way up to 70 centimeters. So they'll have all this data about how signals go back and forth around the country through the totality. Under the totality, you'll be able to see totality happen and then move on. It'll be an amazing thing. Watch for this. You can participate yourself. So we've got all this new data, new understanding of the real world. We've got hundreds of tiny satellites. We've got Fox 1, geosynchronous. I think John's going to talk about phase 4 possible. I think Inmarsat is providing, one of the big companies is going to provide some kind of platform space for us up there. So we will finally have a geosynchronous satellite service. That'll change things. Awards and contests in this new environment. What does it mean to have an award or a contest program in this environment where we all know about where we all are receiving and transmitting at all times? All this information that was previously hidden is now available to us. So what does it mean to have these programs? Well, you have to boil them down and say, how do we make this about radio know-how? And that's really kind of a key element, is remembering that we are doing radio. We're not playing a video game. We are doing a radio. We are interacting with the natural environment in a certain way. So we got all this data. We've got all this technology. What are we going to do with it? That's just what we can see today. I fully expect within the next 5 to 10 years some really amazing additional kind of innovations that will change technology as much as it's changed over the last 20 years. Things are really, really happening, and they're really, really happening fast. So who, ladies and gentlemen, who do we see doing this kind of stuff? Who are all these people? I think mostly it's you guys. Okay? You guys inventing new things, figuring out how to connect this technology to this technology. Somebody out there is fooling around with an interesting new user interface for the radio that is not going to be a knob and some numbers. It's going to be something completely different. There's a guy in Germany who took a Hercules DJ controller with the 2 little spin knobs and some joysticks and some other stuff, and made an SO2R controller out of that. Yasmi, the foundation, is thinking about awarding a prize for somebody who places in the top 10 of a major contest using completely reality, like Oculus Rift. You know, you put on Oculus Rift. What if you could see the radio spectrum and see the ionosphere the way the radio does? What if you could see the signals coming in from every place? You put on these artificial reality goggles, and suddenly you're in this giant planetarium of radio. Wouldn't that be cool? That would be really interesting. It's not unimaginable. It's a simple matter of programming, the 4 most dangerous words in the English language. And it's going to happen. Somebody is going to do this. So these people that are coming in their teens and their 20s and their 30s and their 40s, plus you guys, are all technically savvy. They're totally into having a point of presence on a global network at all times, 24/7, 365. What do you say to them when you go through this process and you're trying to explain that you talked to whatever it was, Afghanistan last night on 20 meters, and they kind of reach into their pocket like I'm doing now, and they're looking for this. Here it is, big pocket. And they go, that's nothing I can do. I've got one of these. I can do this anytime. Well, my story is, yeah, but I can hear the world turn. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, now I've got a story. Okay, now I can talk to them about the sun and the way it interacts with the ionosphere. They have no idea there's an ionosphere up there. Okay, who knows? You don't even hear about it unless there's a giant solar flare and we're all going to die. Okay, you don't hear about that stuff. We've got something that no other service or activity has, and that's propagation. So my answer is, I can hear the world turn, and I can tell them about bands opening, bands closing, all this kind of stuff. And that's interesting. So these people are coming because there's a whole new way of experiencing the world that they've never experienced before, and is unique to amateur radio. That is something that only we have. That should be one of our big selling points. So that's an interesting thing. Everybody's naturally online and connected. This whole artificial division between, well, this is real ham radio and that's not real ham radio. That all has to go away. We have to allow this hybridization to occur because we've got online connectivity to giant resources. For example, right now I think of my radio as being in a box. This is where the decoder is, this is where the PC is, everything's on my desk. If I've got fiber to the curb, why does my radio have to be on my desk? Why can't I have a digitizer over here in this county, and then it sends the IQ data to some kind of a decoder in the cloud, and it sends that back to some kind of a processor someplace else, a server, where it decides who and where and adds the metadata, and then it shows up on my tablet, my desktop. Where's my radio? Am I a single op now? Am I distributed? Am I worldwide? Am I multi-op? What? This is all interesting stuff. This can be done. This is just imagination coming on. So there's lots of these other nearby communities as well who are interested. The makers, the robotics guys. How many people know about sat-navs? There's a couple, okay, winner of the 2014 Hackaday Prize. It's a totally robotic satellite ground station, and all the gears and stuff are all 3D printed. The antennas are all homemade. It's got an Ethernet jack into it. And so basically, you put this thing up someplace, you tell it what satellite you want it to watch, and you give it the orbital elements, and it checks its watch and it says, oh. And then it watches go across the sky, and it inhales the telemetry data and sends it back to the researcher. Well, if you've got a ham license, you can also transmit through that as well. Satnogs.org. Check it out. It's pretty cool stuff. So all these people in these nearby adjacent communities to ham radio might be interested in a hybridization of ham radio with what they do. The 3D printers, the Satnog thing is really good because it's got 3D printing, it's got the network stuff, it's open source, it's ham radio, all these things coming together to make a new thing that's greater than the sum of the parts. Okay, so why would these people become hams? Okay, so they get kind of close. Well, it's interesting and it's fun. My meme lately has been science, service, skill. There's all three of these things. You can come in through the science door, you can come in through the public service door, you can come in through the I just want to have fun door, and then there's a big party going on. Okay, so they come in and they see all this cool stuff going on, and then we bring them into the rest of the party. So the idea is that if you're primarily a public service person, you can become a much more effective public service person if you learn some of the technology, if you learn and practice your operating stuff. So why not get on in a contest or two? If you come in from the technology thing, like I did when I was a kid, I was a nerd, no big deal, right? You come in and then you go, okay, well, what's this net stuff? What's this public service stuff? I think I'll go try that. And a lot of us got into ham radio through the technology thing because it was the internet of its day. And then we got in and we found out that we could participate in these net things, and we learned how to pass traffic and all this kind of stuff. And then there were these CD parties, which were the forerunners of the NAQP QSO parties. And so we became contesters. Even though we came in through the technical door, we went through public service and then got into the operational skill part. The amateur has to be balanced. You have this three-legged stool of science, the technology, the operating skill, and the training to put that to work as public service. And that's the quid pro quo of Part 97.1. We get access to all this cool stuff because we're willing to provide service, we're willing to push the envelopes, we're willing to build and experiment, test, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so they come in, they're interacting with the natural world, they hear the world turning. This is emotionally and socially satisfying to them, and we can't forget that ham radio is about people. It's a successful hobby only if you cooperate. It's like these contests that I get in. They are competitions to cooperate more effectively than anybody else. It's the only sport in which you have to cooperate with your competition in order to score points. It's a really weird sport in a lot of ways. Okay, so, but it's about people. It's about people, about friendships, lifetime friendships, and you can go anywhere in the world, and if you meet another ham radio operator, you are a friend for life immediately. They will take you to their house, and they will feed you dinner, and they will show you around, and put you up, and all sorts of amazing things. So it's a neat social group as well as just the technology. But we have to let these people that are coming form their own groups. Young hams, like youngsters on the air out of Europe. This is the word youngster in Europe means something different than it does here. Here it means a child, a young child under 10. Over there it means teens and 20s. And so youngsters on the air, check them out on Facebook. A totally motivated, interesting group of teens and 20-somethings that travel around. They have their own conferences. They get on contests. They have special call signs. They're having a ball. They're doing it on their own. They're not doing it to please version 1.0 guys. They're doing it on their own terms. This is what we have to encourage these new people to ham radio to do. They form their communities online, and clubs have changed. You have noticed it's hard to have club meetings in the evening. People are too busy. The Club Meeting is now an online thing. 24/7, 365. You have Yahoo group, you have a website, you have Google group, whatever. These things are happening all the time. Facebook pages, all this stuff. So the social part is changing as well. We have to allow that to go on, and we have to encourage it, frankly. What are they going to do? Okay, so we've got the new people. We've seen this all stuff coming in the windshield. What are they going to do? Well, it doesn't dump 1.0. And that's something that as changers, we have to make sure that the changees understand this. We're not talking about saying, okay, all you guys take your equipment and throw it away and replace it with tablets and incomprehensible user interfaces that you don't know anything about. That's not the point. What we're talking about is taking the essential elements of 1.0 and carrying them forward into 2.0 in order to build the second century. And that is sort of a covenant between the old and the new. We have to work together because otherwise people will not change, and they will resist change, and they will resent change. And so if you work with them, you understand what's important to them, and bring that forward, that makes change possible in a non-destructive, non-competitive kind of a way. So, what are they going to do? They're going to do whatever they want, okay? We can stand up here, and I can, I've got 40 years on me here, and I can say, well, this is good, and this is what I do, and this is what I enjoy, and you should try this, and all this kind of stuff. They may go for it. They may not. I have a feeling they may not. They may come and they say, well, with this cool networking stuff, we're going to go off and we're going to do X. And I don't get X, but I don't have to. Okay, it's not about me. It's about what they want to do. The FCC said, look, guys, here's your bans. Here's the rules. Have fun. Okay, we're not going to tell you how to operate. We're not going to tell you where to operate. We're not going to tell you when to operate. We put certain limits and constraints on what you can do. Okay, no giant EMP generators, all this kind of stuff. Okay, you have to play nice, but it's up to you. There's no rule in the FCC that says there will be 20-meter contests and they will sound like this and they will go on all weekend and they will be 48 hours. None of that. We made all that up. Other people can make up their own stuff, make up their own technology. You guys are doing this. You are part of the audience here. You are the irritants, okay? You are going to make the pearls, the oyster. The other thing is convincing the oyster to let you irritate them, okay? So the new people that are coming, the new technology and stuff, is going to come whether the old guys want it or not. And as old guys, it's our obligation to be open to this because we forget that we were new guys too. There was a whole bunch of us. When we all came in, we were the kid brat packs, okay? We were the teenagers, we were the high school kids that got on as the novices, and then we upgraded to general and so on and so forth. And we irritated the old guys, just like some of the new people are going to irritate the old guys. But that's part of life. That's just the way life is. Just because it's ham radio doesn't suspend any of those rules. And they're going to do methods that are completely unique. I was watching Chris Testa, KD2, what's his call? DMH. He is a partner with Bruce Perrins, K6BP, in this effort called ALGORAM, A-L-G-O-R-A-M, or you might know it as White Box. And both of those are worth Googling. They're inventing what they call the handheld of the future. Imagine a handheld. Who's got a handheld here? Give me a handheld. Uh-oh, I broke it. Who's got a handheld? This is what you need. I've been on ICOM about this for years. Thanks, I'll give it back to you in a day or two. I hold this up and I go, Ray, this is what you want. Not another welded together brick full of incomprehensible things that I can't do anything with. This is what I want. I want the RF brick back here that you make and you certify, and I want the app to run everything. If I want the app to look like an old ICOM IC2AT, I run the IC2AT app. If I want a digital voice app, I run the digital voice app. If I want a data thing, I want a data thing. And it has
And
little...
how loud would the gray laugh?
What's that?
How loud would the gray laugh?
Well, you know Ray, he gets this look. And I love Ray, and he is pushing the envelope as much as he can. And it's a big change. Because the traditional manufacturers are all about selling this proprietary closed thing. And you look at Yaesu with the system fusion, and you look at D-Star, and you look at other stuff, and it's a closed proprietary thing. It doesn't give you this. What we need is a point of presence into amateur radio, whatever that is. Whether it's a network, whether it's a digital voice stream, whatever, here's the power. Put this power to work for us. So Chris was talking about building the handheld of the future. And he was talking about the architecture and how he's going to split things up between the RF and the network layer and then the user interface. And he said, well, I needed a signal source, so I wrote a transmitter. I just almost jumped out of my seat. And I said, I wrote a transmitter. Yes, that is version 2.0. Didn't say I soldered one up. He was doing this big FPGA thing. He said, I wrote myself a transmitter. Compiled it straight to silicon. Bang, there it is. That's the kind of modality change that we're talking about. In technology, as you know, we're sitting in a disruptive technology zone right here. It doesn't change like this. It goes, no. Yes, faster. If you look at Logbook of the World for the ARL, it came out. And those of you who were around at the time, it's like everybody's going, oh, this is so hard. I have to send in a postcard. I have to remember a password. I have to go back. I have to do this. I have to do that. And then it was like we got 100 million contacts in there. And then people started putting in a little more in their old logbooks. And it got to be more fun. And when it hit about 300, 400, 500 million contacts of our data, all of a sudden it went from to it's not fast enough. I put in my thing and it's been 15 minutes. I can't even see it. What's the matter with you guys? I'm sitting in there. It's not good enough. It's not fast enough. So it goes ping like this. It never stays in the middle. It just goes from here to here. And it's like spotting networks and other things. All these technology changes are jumps. So we gotta challenge ourselves to deal with this in a positive way. Interests are fragile. When these new people, new technologies, all this stuff comes in, all it takes is one old toad in the back going, well, that's not real ham radio, you're not real ham. And these people can be squashed. I mean, you bring out your baby, it's version 1.0 of your protocol. Some old guy says, it's not going to work. And it can be very difficult to push that on through. We must not be toads. We must not whenever we have this urge to say, well, that's not real ham radio, we've got to stop it. And as changers, you guys are going to be the ones helping this happen. Help that happen without that emotional reaction. Be aware of it, see it coming. So, this ties down to what I call the good arrow. Well, first of all, this is a really great quote. And survival is not mandatory. You can stay like you want. You can be the American Radio Reenactment League, but survival is not mandatory. Okay, so this ties into what I call the good arrow. What is the good arrow? You make a zillion decisions every single day. And accordingly, what you perceive is your good arrow. Where does the good arrow point? You can't write everything down. You can't have a manual for every decision. So where's the good arrow of ham radio? Well, if it helps you understand radio's physical environment, that's a good thing. If it improves your efficiency, your accuracy, your breadth of expertise, that's a good thing. If it encourages technical learning about communications, that's a good thing. If it helps us develop new radio services and techniques, that's a good thing. If it creates new opportunities for building innovation, that's a good thing. If it grows the worldwide community of hams, all of these things, and if you're, for the advanced reader, you will probably recognize most of them as sort of vaguely lining up with 97.1 A, B, C, D, and E of the FCC Part 97, which are basis and purpose for amateur radio that were stated in 1934, and they really did a pretty good job. Pull back. Don't focus so much on the technology or the actual activity. Look for these fundamental things. And when you see innovation coming down the line, see if it lines up with the good arrow. Push the things that line up with the good arrow, and don't push the things that don't. Okay, so outreach, outreach, outreach. Well, the good arrow has to be carried forward by somebody. Who is that going to be? Some of us are in our final couple or 3 decades, you know, and we're going to be handing this stuff off. We have to articulate what the good arrow is, and we have to be prepared to hand that off. And that means every activity that we do has to have some component of outreach. Outreach to high communities, to younger people, to older people, to other technologies, all these other groups. Outreach, 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 outreach. No successful technology is used or adopted in isolation. It has to be shared. That's why we invent it. It doesn't matter if only you can use it. Ham radio is about communications, and communications implies at least one other station. Open all the doors that you can think of. Don't build walls around the hobby. As changers, you are the wall removers, okay? The changees would like there to be a wall. Like, remember the CB thing? We didn't want CBers in the 70s and 80s, and we built all this castle stuff with boiling oil and parapets and all this kind of stuff to keep the CBers away. No, no, no. Well, a lot of people still live in that castle. And if you go up and look over the wall, there's nobody there. Okay? They're all over there. They're all doing makerspace. They're doing robotics. They're doing all this other cool stuff, you know, 3D printing and things. So we gotta let the drawbridges down. We gotta let these people in. The public service model has been very effective in this. We go out, we recruit out a CERT, we recruit out volunteers. All these people see us doing these things. They want to serve their communities and their fellow citizens. Ham radio is the way to do that. Open that door. Once they come in, show them all the rest of the party. But open that door. Hybridize with technologies. The SatNogs thing, geocachers. You ever done a geofox where the geofox is you put somebody with a GPS together with a ham with a handheld and a little Yagi. First thing you do is you give them coordinates and they go find the geocache. What do they find at the geocache? Oh, the frequency of the hidden transmitter. Okay, so that flips over. Now the ham is doing this thing. They go out, they find the hidden transmitter. What's at the hidden transmitter? More geocache components. So now it flips back to the guy or the gal with the GPS, and they go off and they do this, and back and forth and back and forth. By the end of the day, the two have learned a lot about each other and a door. Maybe that geocacher now wants to get their ham radio license. We used to run the CERT communication test on Vashon Island. We would have one ham with a handheld that would work with the island repeater. And then we'd have the CERT people using their little FRS doodads and a handheld CB trying to talk to all the different fire stations. Well, you know what's coming. Okay, they can't talk to any of the fire stations for their stuff, except maybe a little bit. But the hams are like just chatting away on the repeater. By the end of the day, they're like, the heck with this. I want one of those. How do I get one of those? Well, come on. We got a meeting. We got a class. We'll show you. And so there's like 150 hams on Vashon Island now. It's just amazing. But you got to have this outreach, outreach, outreach. Well, you got to go to where people are. You got to get out of the basement. I'm really sorry. You got to get out of your basement. Okay. I know most of us have spent a long time in our basement ever since high school building these amazing things. But you got to get out of your basement, and you got to act like you want people to interact with you. How many times have you gone to someplace where somebody's demonstrating ham radio, and they're just sitting there behind the table like this? You know, it's like, excuse me, I'm just going to back away slowly here. Or you go out to field day, and public welcome, and you go over there, and what it looks like is crime scene tape. All of it. No, 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 no. It's dangerous, so you can't come over here. You've got to act like you want people to interact with you. For technical people, that's difficult. I understand it, but you have to, if you're going to change people, even in other hams, you have to act like you want them to come to where you are. Have fun. Smile. give them free cookies, okay? Give them free beer. Then the problem is to get them to leave, okay? But go out to where they are. Instead of saying field day, for example, say ham radio open house. Nobody knows what field day is, just hams. You put up all these signs, field day, ham radio field day. I'm like, well, they're in a field, okay. They don't get it, that you're trying to get them to come over. When you say ham radio open house, oh, it's an open house. I get it. I'll go over there, I'll go see them. Everybody understands what an open house is. And if you put free cookies and coffee over there, you'll have people coming all day long, for the price of some, Safeway Oreo sandwich cookies, whatever. It's great, but smile. Act like you want them to interact with you. Okay, so everybody has to be a ham ambassador. That's what I call it. You have to take ham radio with you wherever you go. You have a little button, about yay big. It's not a very fancy button. It just has big letters on it that says, ask me about amateur radio. That's all it says. It's this big. It has some, web URLs on the outside of it. The point is that I don't have to come up to you and look at you and get in your personal space to see what that little blinky light, super cool button is that you have. I can look at from like 10 feet away and say, oh, it's a ham radio guy, and then go over there and talk to that person. When you get a chance to talk at your church, at your school, at your club, even if they're not ham radio things, offer to give a talk about what ham radio is. It's an open that door. Go out there, be a little ambassador, and say, if you want to do this more, ask me about it. We've got a club meeting, I'll help you get going. All recruitment is personal. The ARL, God bless them, they can do all these wonderful things. They have great flyers, they have all this stuff. But people don't join amateur radio because of a national organization. They join activities because they see you having a good time, and they're not, okay? So if you're having a good time, and you're putting up all this stuff, and you're doing all these cool things, that gets them interested. Not a flyer, not a poster. Now, once you get them over there, well, the ARL has lots of cool stuff to help them understand what ham radio is. But it's like politics. It's all local. It's all personal. Don't wait for the ARL to do it. You got to do it. You got the coolest technology. It's just amazing. People have no idea. Take it out there and show it to them. You got online tools. You got simulators. When you want to demonstrate ham radio, and somebody says, well, why don't you come down and put a ham radio set up at the mall here this weekend? Well, you know how that goes. You go down to the mall. You're 500 feet from the door. Yeah, okay. So you got a zillion miles of cable. It's all made in 100-foot chunks with barrel connectors. 1, 2, 3. You get it outside and you put up your antenna. There's no place to put up an antenna. So you put up an antenna anyway, and all it is noise. It's about 8 feet off the ground. You can't work anybody. That's really not a very effective presentation, okay? So what you do instead is you log on to a remote station. Get somebody with a remote station to say, okay, you can do it on Friday morning or Saturday morning or whenever you're going to do it. And so you have a nice big display and your laptop, and you're logging onto this thing that's got signals and buttons and knobs and all this stuff, and voices from all over the world coming in because you're logged onto a big station, not this little pathetic 8-foot high dipole out in the bushes, okay? Show them what ham radio really is. Log on to something like ViewProp, which is that cool propagation display program. Put the world up there and turn it loose on one of the spotting screens. And as these things come through, ViewProp will put them up there, tick, tick, and there'll be a line between them. And it'll be a color based on the band. And so as people make contacts and report them, beep, 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 and people come up and go, what's that? Okay, well, they understand what the world is, and you say, oh, these are hams, and they're making contacts, and they reported that, they contacted between A and B. People get that. They understand that. And then they start asking questions. Well, what do the colors mean? Oh, well, the color is a different frequency. Well, why are the ones in the dark different than the ones in the light? Oh, well, that's because, and now they're interested. You got it, okay? You got a story. You got a story to tell them. Imagine what that big globe looks like at the beginning of CQ Worldwide Friday afternoon. Yarn ball, you know, it's really pretty interesting. Maps and colors and graphics and stuff like that. Show them what you're doing. Go out to the robotics and the makerspace and all these other places, the campers, the hikers, the geocachers, the programmers. You guys already have an in to all of the digital people. Go out there and say, look, I'd like to give a presentation on my ham radio newsgater here. Okay, cool, bring it in, show it. Open that door, go there, talk to people about what they do. And then mentor and recruit. Once you get a person in, remember how green we all were at the beginning and how easy it was to get completely stuck because of something absolutely, totally simple. Help them over those little curves. Now, you don't have to make them into little carbon copies of yourself, okay? Just help them over the curves to wherever it is that they want to go. Will Rogers had it right. The best advertising doesn't look like any advertising, okay? Just do your thing, okay? But put it out there where other people can see it. Talk about ham radio's uniqueness. Right? I've already covered this, and I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm going to jump over this. But we do something that nobody else does. Capitalize on that, sell that, put that story out there. Okay, we're doing all sorts of really cool stuff. And then, once you recruit them, train them. Okay? You'll retain them. Recruit, train, retain. And those of us that have been in for a while know that even as we get through our first pass, we're going to learn about something else. So we need to be recruited to do something else within ham radio. And then we need to be trained, and that will retain us. And then we learn about something else. But we have to go through this process over and over again. And that's how you make a lifetime. That's how you get away from somebody who just comes to ham radio and puts their radio in the drawer thinking they're going to use it when the big one comes, okay, but they never interact with anybody, and a couple of years later they can't even find the radio, okay, or they join and they go to breakfast on Saturday morning with the game for a year or so, and then the novelty kind of wears off. What else is out there? Recruit them, train them, retain them, make the lifetime ham. It's really, really important, along with balance and science, service, skill. They come through that door, whatever door they come through, your job is to say, welcome to ham radio, and walk them around and show them all these other cool things that hams do. And all of us that have developed this technology, we can apply that. Maybe we can apply it someplace other than where we thought it was going to go. Maybe somebody else can say, oh, that's cool, I could use that for this. That's your job, is to go, really? Cool, let's give that a try. And that helps bring this to fruition and broadens the technology, opens angles that maybe nobody ever thought of before. So we got to watch out for the fact that we've been sitting in our basement for all these years. Stuff. There's no greater threat to the future of this service than demographics, which are relentless, and complacency about how we're going to deal with it. Okay? We've got to recruit, we've got to take this technology that we built and take it out to other people. They will like it, they will enjoy it, they will join the amateur service. But we can change ourselves in the process by opening ourselves up. So, get on with it. We've celebrated our legacy quite enough. I'm tired of the centennial. It's over. We need to move on, okay? We need to look out the windshield. Ask yourself what the deep underlying principles are of the hobby, service. Figure out how to carry those forward. Let the technology go. Let the form of the operating go if it has to. Whatever. Carry the principles forward. That's what's the baton. That's what we need to be handing on to the next group of people that are coming. Invite and involve other people into amateur radio. Ask what you and your peers, and your club, and your section, and your division, and the ARL are doing to recruit hams so that we have a second century of ham radio. And I think technology and innovation and application of new things is the best recruitment tool that we have. It's really cool. It's been here for 100 years. And every activity can have an outreach component. So ask yourself, why not? What can we do? So as science fiction guys, you probably know this guy, the future is here. It's already here. Microsoft is about the future. Okay, MicroHAMS is about the future. It's just not real evenly distributed. You just have to go out there and proselytize about it. So Clinton DeSoto understood this when he wrote 200 Meters and Down in 1936, and he was anticipating the coming of television, how that would fundamentally change the nature of ham radio. If you read 200 Meters and Down, it's a fascinating story of the early part of amateur radio, and you'll recognize a lot of elements of it. He was confident, and it turned out that he was right, that the society of amateurs would persevere, regardless of what the technology was. Spark was still recent memory for a lot of these people. Tuned radio frequency receivers were still in use. But here it was becoming television, and it was going to change everything. So what I see, to paraphrase DeSoto, what I see as ham radio 2.0 is incredibly exciting with all sorts of new technologies that are going to change the way we operate, and they're going to open up a whole new set of services and activities and goals, and a whole new group of people will discover on their own terms what we refer to as the magic of radio. And that's what we're trying to carry forward. It is now our job as innovators and evangelizers to take amateur radio and set it loose out there and bring in these people and take pride in what we have accomplished, thus ensuring that we're going to go forward into the 7th century. Thank you very much.